Hi, this is Peter Fristedt. I am a Senior Program Officer in the Division of Public Programs at the National Endowment for the Humanities. This is a webinar on NEH grants for linguists, hosted by the Linguistics Society of America. We had some technical difficulties during the live webinar a couple of days ago, so I am re-recording the slides for you to listen to. Today, I'm going to be going over an introduction to NEH and the work we do. I'll take a look at a handful of our grant programs. I will talk you through our application process, go over the review process, give you some suggestions for success when applying for a grant. So we are a small, independent federal agency. We were founded in 1965 along with the National Endowment for the Arts by Congress. Our annual budget stands at $207 million, and our core activity is grant making. So most of that money in our annual budget goes out in the form of grants. Our current chair, the head of our agency, is Shelley Lowe. So you can take a look at our mission statement there, which does communicate that what we are about is making grants. One thing I do want to spend a little time on is just what we mean by the humanities. Lots of organizations dealing with humanities work have sort of slightly different understandings of what the humanities are. There is our founding legislation. It's been amended a couple of times, but that includes a definition of the humanities as we understand it. And I just wanted to call your attention to sort of in that second line there. So really, first and foremost, we are looking at the humanities as a list of disciplines, and first in the list, language and linguistics. I want to give you an overview of the different grant-making offices and divisions at NEH. So briefly, so first of all, there are 7 offices and divisions doing this grant-making work. One of them is our research programs division. So that's where we are supporting scholarly research in all different humanities fields. Our education programs supports humanities education primarily through professional development and the development of teaching resources. Preservation and access supports the preservation of cultural artifacts, collections, manuscripts, and the making those available to different types of audiences. Our federal-state partnership. So 2/5 of our annual budget goes sort of directly out the door to our network of 56 state and jurisdictional humanities councils, which they in turn also make grants and do more local on-the-ground humanities programming. We have an Office of Digital Humanities, which funds cutting-edge work in digital humanities, which ultimately, the aim of which is to support work in a variety of humanities areas. We have an Office of Challenge Programs or Challenge Grants, which is currently funding organizational assessments for climate adaptation for cultural organizations, and Public Programs, which is where I work, and that is where the agency supports public-facing projects in the humanities. Okay. I'm going to talk you through a number of different grants that we offer at the agency that have, many of which have supported linguistics projects in the past. And wanted to start with one that may be the best known to you, to members of this community, and that is our Documenting Endangered Languages grants. We have 2 of them. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about these, partly because LSA I believe we'll be holding another NEH webinar in a few months, this one focused on research-related grants. But so dynamic language infrastructure, documenting endangered languages. This is a program jointly run by the National Endowment for the Humanities and the National Science Foundation. And we have two programs in this partnership. One, through our Division of Preservation and Access, is available to organizations, and that's the one on the left there, Seniors Research Grants. Maximum award is $450,000. There's a deadline coming up in September, and this grant supports field work and other activities for the recording and documenting and archiving of endangered languages. This grant, you apply to NSF for this one, so it is not managed by NEH. This other one, though, on the right, so our fellowships grant program run by our research division. This one you do apply to NEH, and it's available for individuals. It is a maximum award of $60,000. That's a year's worth of funding. The deadline is in September as well, and this one is supporting scholarly analysis and publication, fieldwork to some extent as well. Media projects, so this is a grant run out of my office, or my division, public programs. And so it has, media projects has two funding streams. First, there's a radio and podcast where we offer production awards of up to $350,000. These result in the production and distribution of a radio or podcast project. Two deadlines a year in this grant program, one coming up in August and the other this coming January. And I'll call your attention to Subtitle, of course, a fantastic podcast that we have given LSA a couple of grants to produce. And also the Wenner-Gren Foundation's Sapiens podcast. Wenner-Gren is an organization that supports work in anthropology, and this is their flagship podcast. And we supported a season of episodes dealing with Margaret Mead and the kind of afterlife of her book Coming of Age in Samoa. The other stream in media projects is for documentary films and television programs. These also include, this grant program also includes development funding as well as production funding. The production funding level is a little higher. As you can see, the outcome of a development award is a script or detailed treatment, and the primary outcome of a production award is an actual documentary film or television program. And I've just included a handful of grants there. Language Conservancy's Rising Voices, Health and MP. So this is a linguistics film about the revitalization of the Lakota language. It's a little older. Worlds of Ursula K. Le Guin. But I also wanted to include Smart History, which is a web series of art history videos, which I think between these three projects, you can really see the range of the types of project we fund in this grant program. Another grant we run is Digital Projects for the Public. This is where we support digital games, websites, mobile tours, touchscreens, and virtual environments of different kinds. This grant program has 3 levels of funding: early stage discovery funds, prototyping, and production awards. We just had a deadline for this program, and the next one is coming up a year from now. And couple of language and linguistics projects that we funded recently. So one at Discovery from the University of Kentucky, the Anatolian Trail, which is about Proto-Indo-European, and Texas Christian University's Strong Fire, which is an Oneida language and culture project. Moving on to our Office of Digital Humanities. A couple of grants from these folks. So one thing I should say is I am not, talking about every single grant program that we run in these different offices and divisions, but just a handful of ones that I think are hopefully more interesting to this community. Office of Digital Humanities. So the Digital Humanities Advancement Grants. This is where that really cutting edge work that I mentioned is supported in the Office of Digital Humanities. So innovative, experimental, computationally challenging digital projects. A deadline in January and June of 2025, 3 levels of funding. There's also the Institutes for Advanced Topics in Digital Humanities. So this is more of a professional development grant program. February is the next deadline, and max award of $250,000. And just a linguistics project down there on the right. So from Princeton, the Center for Digital Humanities, they received funds for an institute for advanced topics in digital humanities called New Languages for Natural Language Processing, Building Linguistic Diversity in the Digital Humanities. And finally, from our education division, a couple of their larger programs. So institutes, they do institutes as well, but more broadly targeted than those in the Office of Digital Humanities. So there's institutes for higher education faculty, institutes for K-12 educators, and again, these are professional development programs. There's also Humanities Initiatives, which is a grant program. We get actually several grant programs, and so each one a different one there, the colleges and universities, HSIs, community colleges, HBCUs, and TCUs. And this is a grant program supporting the strengthening of teaching and study of the humanities at these different types of institutions and through the development of different resources, course development, etc. And down there on the left, Saginaw Valley State University received recently a summer institute, or excuse me, an institute's grant for a summer institute called Language and Linguistic Prejudice related to race, ethnicity, gender, and identity. All right, before getting into the application process and the review process a bit, I want to just pause to mention an agency initiative that we currently have going called American Tapestry. So this is an initiative that is emphasizing the role of the humanities in tackling contemporary social challenges. 3 are the focus there, so strengthening our democracy, advancing equity for all, and addressing our changing climate. So as part of this initiative, the agency has developed a number of new grant programs, and it also serves as an encouragement for projects addressing one of these topics. It is up to applicants whether they want to address this initiative or not. Your project can still be funded even if you don't, but it is something, sort of the current agency interest. All right, so our application process. Who is eligible to apply? Of all the grants that I've been speaking about, only one is available to individuals, and that was the Documenting Endangered Languages grant in our research division. Every other grant, and most of the grants at the agency, are available to organizations rather than individuals. Organizations can fit into one of 4 categories. So you can be a 501c3, you can be an accredited college or university, a state or local government agency, or a federally recognized tribal government agency. Process. So the first thing to do when you are thinking of applying for an NEH grant is to go check out our website, where we have lots and lots of information on our different grant programs and the work that we do. I want to talk you through the website a little bit. It's not the easiest to navigate, so I want to give you a kind of pathway through the website that will help you find grant programs that you are looking for and help you search for grant programs and search for individual grants as well that we have made in the past. So if you look up there in that red oval, grants, so this is the home page. So if you click on that tab, you get to this page where you have a couple of options. You can search all grant programs or search all past awards. There's other options as well, of course, as you can see, but let's focus on these 2. So if you click on Search All Grant Programs, you get to this page, NEH Funding Opportunities. So this contains a list of every single NEH grant program currently online, and you can just look through the whole list, or you can sort on the left there. You can sort by grants for individuals or organizations, ones upcoming or currently accepting applications, or you can also sort by NEH office or division. If you only wanted to look at research programs, for example, you would just click on that, and you would get all of the different research programs grants. All right, so I circled fellowships for digital publications there. So that's just the first one that comes up, or when I put these slides together, that was the first one that came up because that was the next deadline. But let's say you click on that, or actually click on media projects, which is what I have as an example here. So this gets you to the grant program landing page. Every single grant program has a landing page that looks like this. It includes a grant snapshot on the right there, which has the information on different funding levels, basically what the grant supports, period of performance, so the grant period, and the different deadlines for the grant program. On the left is more of a summary of the grant program, and if you scroll down, you get to a number of steps in applying for the particular grant. And for this one, there are 4 of them. And if you click on step 1, this is what you see. Most of the information is going to be in step 1, by the way. And so the arrow is pointing to the notice of funding opportunity for the grant program. That is what we call the RFP. It's the NOFO for short. And that really is the application Bible for applying for one of these grants. It really tells you everything you need to know, talks you through the entire application process, and includes every piece of information you need to include in your application. Just under that is the grants.gov application package link. So all applications are submitted not through the NEH website, but through the government-wide grants.gov website. So that link will take you there. Program resources is next. This is where we have our FAQs, our lists of funded projects as well, or recently funded projects. And then just below that, extremely useful resources, there's sample application narratives. So these are for successful grants that have been made in the last few years, where the narrative part of the application, which is really where applicants make their core argument for funding, we've included a number of those here, and every grant program has these. And they are very useful to get a sense of what a successful application looks like, how these applicants have made their case, and how they have presented information and discussed how their project and how they understand the conceptual framing of it. And so they are very helpful to read a few of those to give you a sense of what makes for a strong application. Scrolling down further, you get steps 2, 3, and 4, which again, so this is just guiding you through the application process. And at the bottom there, program statistics. So again, we include these for every grant program, and these go back 5 funding cycles and tell you the number of applications submitted, the funding ratio in the grant program, and the number of awards made. And looking at that funding ratio, so typically an NEH grant program, some of them are more or less competitive, but basically kind of between 10 and 20% funding ratio is what you can expect. All right, backing up to that grants search page, and if you want to follow door number 2 there, so search all past awards, that gets you to the window on the right, and that is where you can see pretty much everything we have funded going back to our first grant in 1966. And you can sort in all manner of ways. If you want to see every project that is made in the area of linguistics, you can click on the subject matter tab there. All right, so I want to spend a little time talking about our review process. And so this is, again, going to be more or less the same for any grant program that you apply to. So the first step is well, before anything else happens, we receive all the grants in the grant program at the particular deadline, and we as a staff in the different offices and divisions, we sort the applications onto panels, generally by subject matter. Those panels then go out to groups of external peer reviewers who we have recruited just for the purpose of reviewing that one set of applications on the panel in question. Those reviewers, depending on the grant program, it's going to be a bit of a different makeup. At least in public programs, it's always going to be a combination of scholars, so you're going to have a handful of scholars with subject matter expertise relevant to the applications on the panel, and you're going to have professionals from the field in question, right? So if you apply for a podcast grant, let's say, then you will have some media producers, podcast producers on the panel. Those external reviewers submit written evaluations addressing our review criteria. I'll talk about those in a minute. And often we will have a teleconference meeting, a Teams meeting with the reviewers after they've submitted their written comments, and we'll discuss the applications more virtually face-to-face. Not every grant program has that second step, but most of them do. After that has happened, the division or office in question then makes funding recommendations based on that panel review. Step number 3 is that our National Council on the Humanities weighs in to assess our recommendations, our staff recommendations. The National Council on the Humanities is a group of 26 presidentially appointed and Senate confirmed people who are sort of senior humanists from different fields. So they ask us all sorts of questions about our recommendations, and they in turn make their own recommendations to the agency's chair. And she is the only person empowered by law to make funding decisions. And once those decisions are made, we announce the awards, and that is the end of the review cycle. It takes, the whole process takes about 6 or 7 months, depending on the grant program. I mentioned review criteria, so we publish these in every notice of funding opportunity, and the external reviewers are assessing the applications according to them. I've included just the basic template that we have for public programs review criteria. So we ask about intellectual content and humanity significance. We ask about the creative approach and the project resources. We want to know about project personnel, so the filmmaker, the broadcast producer, and we also require that this is in public programs now, we require that every grant, every project be advised by a group of humanities scholars, and so we're asking about those folks as well. We want to know about the audience appeal of the project and its potential reach, and we want to know about its feasibility. So the budget, are the costs in line, with industry standards? Is it a reasonable request? The work plan, right? Are you giving yourself enough time to complete the project? If you are interested in serving as a reviewer on one of our panels, you can. There is a form on our website where you can sign up for that and become a candidate to serve as a reviewer. And that address is apps.neh.gov/signup, and you can include your information there. We are always looking for reviewers. We recruit lots and lots of folks for every review cycle. Some suggestions on applying. Now, some of these I've already mentioned, but they are worth repeating. So carefully reading the NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity. Like I said, they are lengthy, voluminous documents, but they are chock full of really essential information, so reading those cover to cover. Getting to know your review criteria, again, which are published in the NOFOs, and really keeping those in mind as you are writing your application, right? Making sure you are addressing them implicitly in what you're saying, and reading those sample applications I mentioned, submitting a draft. So not every grant program, but most of the grant programs at the agency do allow and welcome drafts of proposals. We always publish a deadline for the drafts. It's several weeks before the application deadline. You are not required to submit a draft, but applicants have told us in the past that it is a useful process. So staff members, program officers at NEH will provide you with feedback, written or oral, and we will have a conversation with you about the sort of strengths and weaknesses of your project. Using clear and concise writing, avoiding jargon. This is important because while your project may well be reviewed by somebody who has your expertise or is an expert in your particular area, it will very likely also be reviewed by folks who do not share that expertise and do not know the technical vocabulary of the discipline or the area in which you are working. So keeping things jargon-free is essential, including your required supporting materials when you're pressing submit on your application, and also making sure all of your attachments are PDFs. Sounds simple, but the application can be not even accepted by the grants.gov website if you don't have documents in the right format. And if you submit super close to the deadline, you might not realize in time to correct your error. Register, or making sure your organization registers early for a system of award management and a grants.gov SAM number and a grants.gov registration. Most organizations, unless they're fairly new, have these updated, but it's always worth checking. And most importantly, talking to a program officer like me or one of my many colleagues here who serve in this role at NEH. We are very happy to get on the phone, talk on Zoom or Teams, or communicate over email about questions of eligibility, fit, competitiveness. We are a friendly bunch, and this is a big part of our job, is to talk to applicants and sort of help guide you through the process and provide feedback. As I mentioned, we do read proposal drafts in most of our grant programs, and we do welcome them. And yeah, we are very happy to open lines of communication with you. So do reach out to us if you have a project. And I will leave you with some contact information. So this is my email address at the top there, and just the general email addresses of the different divisions and offices that I discussed going over individual grants. So you can reach out to any of those. Also our website and our X, formerly Twitter, handle there. And thank you very much. That is it. Please do reach out with any questions to me or my colleagues in other offices and divisions. And have a great day.